the salmon circle, on the sea to the sea, to the rivers of life, endlessly, and they always return.
Our people have always been by the river. Yes, I said. We have never known a time such as this. Oh, I said, as it hurt too much to say anything else. We sat in our silence together, as the salmon do in our waters. We stayed stationed in the current, together in our pain, as do the salmon in our waters. As we remembered the time when we could walk on the salmon in our waters, the water that was us, that makes our bodies and brings us to know the cycle of our lives, the journey, the journey, the journey, the journey, the journey.
Oh, the salmon circle, on the sea to the sea.
We need people of all creeds and cultures to push your governments. We are sovereign Indigenous peoples. We are all, whether you're Secwepemc or not, you're a sovereign individual. The fact that we're all here in this time and place right now says that the Creator created you. Your relationship with the ultimate life force that makes your heart beat involuntarily, that helps you to breathe, that is an act of creation, that is a powerful act of sovereignty.
On the sea to the sea, to the rivers of life, endlessly, and they always.
The intention of the Wild Salmon Caravan is to transform the darkness, to celebrate through the arts and the culture, and to be real about the issues, but don't get stuck there. Let's be human beings together. It doesn't matter our color anymore. It doesn't matter the politics around, it's just so hard to do this work when we work in that way. And so it's very sacred work.
On the sea to the sea, to the rivers of life.
When our old ones talked to us about anything that was important that was going on in our territory, they always began with the words, Saath Tamukti. That means this is our homeland. This is our territory. We have to take good care of everything that belongs to us. And now that we share this beautiful part of Mother Earth of ours, we have a shared responsibility now. That's what we always tell our people. We remind everybody that we have, each and every one of us who come to this beautiful part of the world, have a responsibility to take good care of what we have left.
I'm going to quote one of my other sisters, Matriarchs said, David Suzuki said in one of his research that if you look at the DNA of a cedar tree, you will see salmon. So I thank you for being here today. I am so honored to stand with the 13 matriarchs, and it's amazing to me how full circle we're coming, even as Wellmo people, putting the matriarchs back in their place, back in balance with the governance of our people. OCM, thanking you all for being here today.
swimming, swimming, swimming.
Salmon is actually a climate regulator, and we all know that that the salmon, when it comes up the rivers, it nurtures, it brings the nutrients of the ocean, and does a wonderful job to nurture the forests that provide us with the oxygen that we breathe and absorbs carbon from the atmosphere. And love for wild salmon unites us all.
Vancouver had 50 salmon-bearing streams, and there were streams that flowed into Trout Lake, and then out of Trout Lake was China Creek that flowed straight into False Creek. And False Creek was a beautiful saltwater marsh, which was an incredible place for biodiversity, where the salt water and the fresh water were mixing, and where herring would be spawning and salmon would be feeding.
We need to protect our stocks in a way that we've never protected before. And it's from 0 to 10. We can go to court, we can write a letter, we can go occupy the lines, we can set a date and tell all the sporties, the trollers, the seiners, let's meet at this date, at this juncture, and shut the farms down.
I'm the chief of the Schwai village, a humble servant of the people, and my sister Bonnie is councilwoman. And we've been trying to support the work of Mr. Gardner and all of you folks, and we're doing our little part today by inviting you into our village and preparing the meal and working in concert with our neighbors. When the salmon are gone, so will we too disappear. This water behind us, my sister and I and my older sister, we grew up right here. And when we were kids, we used to swim in this. We used to swim in this. And now I'm scared to put my toe in there. In just my short lifetime, we've seen this water go from clear to that. And it disturbs us. We know that we need to do something.
This is a spiritual movement led by our ancestors. We come here with their power and their intention. And that's what we're going to go forward with. We're challenging the way movements have gone on before. We have an end state. Our desired end state is to stop this destruction of the habitats of wild salmon so that our kids and their kids and their kids and kids and kids and kids can have salmon the same way that we do today, and even better.
I want to welcome you all to the Tlakapan territory. It's an honor to have you come to our territory for what you guys stand for, because that is important to us. We create the fish. We live off of that for many hundreds of years. So I raise my hands to you. Thank you for being here.
From the rocks in the pool, in the river below, they are turning and turning, oh so slow, and they've been there forever in that sacred dance. Round and round they go, it's a water romance, and the salmon circle from the sea to the sea, up the rivers of life.
Thank you for fighting for our fish. The salmon need us. I received the story in 1994, and it's stayed with me ever since. And it's quite simply this: salmon will save the world if you let them. Let them do their work. They never stray from their purpose, and as human beings, we can learn a lot from them by watching them. And that's what the Wild Salmon Defenders Alliance is doing, drawing our attention to the life cycle of the salmon and how much we as humans need it. So I impress upon all of you that your work don't feel like it's wasted. There were times on our caravan where we wanted to give up. We were threatened, we were berated, we were run off the road, but we never gave up. And when those days came, and they will come, you'll lean on one another, hold each other up, and keep going. Because at the end of the day, it'll be the salmon that will save us in the end.
By the taste of the waters, they return to the source, lay down their eggs, feel the life force, resting safe in the gravel, past the waves of blue. These crayfish are dying, but in spring life renews, and the salmon circle from the sea to the sea, up the rivers of life and the sea, and they always return to the place they began for a million years. For a salmon, 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 salmon.
Wild salmon forever!
The river cries out. Underwater screams and gasps as she clasps for a clean breath, but gets dirty gulps of mercury pulp and arsenic slime, which begins to make her think death. The salmon people, still unaware, swim forward into these clouded waters, their fate now sealed by the shrouded orders of businesses allowed to be proud of the slaughter of innocents. And in a sense, we're all responsible for this type of damage. We only protest the issues our hearts and minds can functionally manage. We're conditioned to ignore and live life in comfort and distracted, while the vascular system of the planet Earth gets mangled and extracted. And how you reacted to that violence is a cultural marker of our development. Compassion shows the real evolutionary progress where our egos become irrelevant. An anthropocentric pat on the back and a slow clap for these creatures in control. Old white men just shake it off, or their stocks plummet into a dank financial hole. The people near the banks of the river, we walk around dazed with our eyes glazed, realizing that the phase that was spoke of in phrase of the darkest coming days has begun its grand entry. Downy vulture feathers begin to fall from the blueness of the sky. The animals stand in a fervent reverence as they witness the swimmers die. A family of bears begins to sing a healing song, their eyes soaked from the contamination, crying to the skies, asking them why must we suffer through this damnation. And the creators, they don't answer at first. They sit in silent thought. Grandpa just nods with his lips pursed in a light of recognition while Grandma focuses her eyes on this one single spot. She wrings her hands as she feels the ache of every toxin spilled into our rivers and lakes. Her body begins to shake, and you can feel her warmth radiate as her tears begin to break. Grandpa stands and embraces her with a quiet hand on her shoulder. He begins to rub her back as we witness her instantly become 20 years older. She begins to sing a song that predates all things under the sun. It comes from when we used to live in darkness, when everything was one. Grandpa gets some water and quickly signals for us all to listen. Grandma begins to dance, and her ethereal aura begins to glisten. And through her movements, she begins to tell us of how it used to be. Her feet step a graceful language of light that tells us of when we used to be free and all one from creation. When humans were given the gift of a red flower, this flower would come from the sun and would represent the delicate powers that come with consciousness, and would also represent the destruction, the possibility of losing control, and the energy shifts of corruption, the hungry ghosts that work through us. Some are obviously starving. These are the energies that overtake our needs for wants in the rocks that we begin carving, taking more than we need and selling more than we can ever want. These scars on the surface will heal, but the hurt inside will always haunt. And then Grandma's dance becomes more powerful. So we all stood up so we could honor her spirit. She spins and she spins. The air becomes thin and her heartbeat, you can hear it. But then the song stops, just for a moment, and moves into this quieter, peaceful movement. Her voice is so beautiful, and it's healing, and we can all feel the instant improvement. And her feet gently touch the floorboards of this house. In all of our hearts, she sits and finds her breath, and then starts to describe to us the parts that we should be aware of, the seriousness of the matter. We will all have to pull together to get through this while silencing the chatter. Listen to our hearts and not our ears when demons speak. The gifts that come from a raven's beak will always be light until we're weak. Until then, we grow strong as a family of one mind, under one sun, on one earth, with one love, until the last day she comes undone. Be strong when I am not, she says, and looks us all in the eyes. You know what to do, she tells us all. And if not, you better damn well try. And Grandma lets out a laugh and tells us all to come and eat. Grandpa sort of smiles and shrugs and moves his head to make us move our feet. Because you see, they nourish us no matter what. Grandma and Grandpa have always been okay. It's us that needs to take care of ourselves and our relationship with them and the land today. Our voices alone are like whispers into space, but our voices as one are like sonic booms of medicine in the face. So stand up when Grandma sings and dances and darkness advances. We've had many chances, and this is just another one of those romances with light and dark becoming one, hot and cold causing thunder. So whenever we wonder where they are, when things get real, they live above and under and all around, inside our blood and bones and who we seem to be. Just children in this world we see and what it really means to be free when the river cries out.